Okay, Churbs, these are marbles that once lined the great structure of the Parthenon in Athens. The Parthenon has endured for over 2,000 years, and in that time it's been used as a pagan temple, a church, a mosque, and a museum. It's been refitted and altered. It's had a powder keg blow up inside it, it's been through an uncountable number of wars, and somehow it's come out of the other side of those experiences still standing. And now it serves as a symbol of general antiquity. It's our symbol of the classical past and the Western intellectual tradition. And these marbles once lined that building to form what is called a frieze, and they connected all four sides of the Parthenon. The interpretation of the Frieze's narrative has caused a great deal of speculation, since there are no surviving primary descriptions of it. There's really no way to tell what the story is. But it's hard to look at them without a sense of awe, and whatever your level of knowledge, it's fun to guess at the meaning of something so beautiful. It's part of why people seek out antiquities like this. Though there are many interpretations of the frieze, it does not mean the characters in the story are completely lost to us. What can still be made out, underneath the guise of time, is as follows. This is the eastern side of the frieze, commonly referred to in scholarship as the peplos scene. We see a priest is handed, or is handling, a piece of cloth. Perhaps this cloth is a peplos, a woman's full-bodied shawl, and is either giving or receiving it from a small child. The peplos was an important ritual object in the Panathenaic procession, a great festival of Athens which honored the goddess Athena. Flanking the scene are 12 gods of Mount Olympus, notable by their scale and prominent position. The gods look on to the festivities and see a glorious assemblage of Athenians. Altogether, there are approximately 378 humans and deities and over 200 animals. The city of Athens seems to be depicted on a momentous day as a unified picture of ancient Athenian culture, whether it be for the Panathenaic procession or some ritual that is unbeknownst to modern society. It is a grand display of a single celebration. But here's the thing. Even though these marbles are important to the entire world, and even though they tell a unified story, they can't be viewed together. You'd have to travel over 3,000 kilometers. Side note, I happen to live in a country that uses kilometers now. Of the surviving 160 meters of sculpture, 80 meters are in a British museum, 1 block in the Louvre, and other pieces of the frieze can be found in museums in Palermo, Würzburg, Vienna, Munich, Copenhagen, and the Vatican Museum. Only 50 meters of the frieze are located at the Acropolis Museum in Athens. Athens famously wants to unify the panels, and it's one of the great controversies in the history of art. The marbles were cut from the Parthenon in 1802 by Lord Elgin, with some vague and perhaps misinterpreted permission by the Ottoman governors in Athens. So on one side, people argue that this has become part of the story of the sculptures. The horses of St. Mark's Square in Venice, for example, have been moved around the world from city to city, and to study them is to study the history of the Mediterranean. Their story is part of history's story, and it adds meaning to the sculptures. So if we look at the issue like this, if the marbles are returned to Athens, it would set a dangerous precedent that all cultural items be returned to their place of origin. It would destroy museums, which collect and display artifacts from different times and different places in meaningful ways, to help us extend our empathy and recognize a shared past. You should watch the art assignment video in defense of museums if you haven't seen it yet. Artifacts are transferred from culture to culture, and oftentimes it's not done according to any universal ethical code. In fact, that's impossible. Cultures across time and space don't have universal ethical codes. So should the paintings housed in the Met in New York City be returned to Europe because many of them were purchased from a desperate population forced to sell their cultural artifacts? When visitors walk into this room of the British Museum and ask, how did these get here? Why aren't they in Athens? They will learn about the history of Greece, the Ottoman Empire, and British imperialism. They will learn about the interconnectedness of the world through its artifacts. But, on the other side of this argument, the marbles were taken under particularly questionable circumstances. Lord Elgin's declared plan was to make copies of the marbles and then send the originals back. He got his permission from the Ottoman Empire, who were occupying Athens at the time. Additionally, there's an aesthetic argument here. Greek art became so influential through its symmetry and its storytelling, among other things. To split this piece of artwork into pieces and distribute it between different cities is to destroy the element that makes it important to those cities in the first place. Imagine if Raphael's School of Athens was split in two, or even taken from the room it was intended for. Clearly we owe it to the concept of beauty itself to keep these artifacts together. At the moment, no one can look at this work as a unified piece. No one can see fully its beauty and its full story in one place. So those visitors in a British museum who ask how something from the Parthenon ended up in Britain hear the story of British imperialism and this controversy. They will learn how beauty was sacrificed to the empire. I believe that artifacts like these tell a meaningful story of the history of the world, and I believe in the role of museums to help tell that story. I also want that story to be one of compassion and respect. There's a word in Greek, philoxenia, which, when broken down, means friend of a foreigner, though in Google Translate it'll go simply to hospitality. In my opinion, the British Museum could choose compassion and have the story of this artifact reflect the philoxenia of 21st century England. I want museum goers in Athens a few hundred years from now to learn the story of these marbles in their museum and hear the story of how England chose compassion and aesthetics and the unification of something beautiful over the tradition of paternalistically overseeing other cultures. I think that would be a much better story, but that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this video, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.